This is the right one. Okay.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Oh, goodness. Oh, jeez. All right. That's all good. And I think, did Ryan really do that?
Yes, he did.
Ryan sure did do that.
He
So,
did.
hi, everybody. Glad to have you all here with us on a Friday night. I should be a little more careful when I'm opening my drink here, but nice to have you all. Make sure I cover the brand here. Nice to have you all with us.
You don't need to cover the brand.
I cannot imply or endorse anyone without them giving me money. Glad to have you all here on tomorrow.
They give you caffeine.
That's true. They do. They keep me awake.
Caffeine's like money.
It is. Time is money, and caffeine can give you more time. My name is Jared. Glad to have you all here. I'm going to be hosting us this week of tomorrow. But you missed 1 week, and you just can't anymore. I've also got Ryan, who's presently not with us, our friend from across the pond. Also, I've got Jamie in here with me, as you can see. And then, luckily, I do have one other person with me here, which is thank goodness.
You're saving grace.
Yes, someone that can actually do something to help me out here, which is...
There's an adult in the room.
Yes, finally, one adult. But yes, once again, glad to have you all back today because, oh my gosh, we have a lot to talk about because there have been quite a few things that have happened in the past week. Since our last show, Ryan both disappeared and then came back, and we are talking about something that happened minutes ago, but it's still a big part of our news that we have. And I just I don't really know where to start this week, Ryan, because it just seemed like every day there was some sort of big story that was either hanging over our heads of something that could happen or something did happen or something was implied. It was like on all fronts of space and space news this week, we had big things to talk about. So honestly, I'm just going to kind of throw it to you and Dada as to where we want to begin today, because I honestly don't know where to begin because there's just so much and all of it is so big.
Should we go in chronological order?
We can do that. We can do that if you'd like to.
That might be the most sensible order to go in because this week has been hectic.
Do the most boring first.
How? None of them were boring. So, I mean, like, I don't feel like they're boring. So, but I find everything in space exciting.
Yeah, me too.
So, that's the hard part.
Space is boring.
No, it's not. Although that is a great talk.
It is a great talk.
So,
pick a topic.
Why don't we go ahead and start with Ian and sort of what happened with that, because that's very much been looming over our heads. Also, JTTV in our chat room, very well said. Just an unnamed tropical storm. It's a little bit more than that now. But let's go ahead and talk about that. It's a pretty serious subject. So, let's go ahead and talk about what's occurred with that.
So Ian reached if I'm remembering correctly, the top end of a Category 4 hurricane, blasting through the western edge of Cuba, pretty much, back, looping up round into Florida, basically dissecting Florida in half, starting off here just south of Tampa, and then pretty much the eye going straight through Titusville and Cape Canaveral. So it was a good idea that NASA rolled back SLS.
Yeah.
And then it's now looped back west again, and it's made landfall for the third time now into the Carolinas. So the vast brunt of the storm was over Florida, and it's because NASA decided to roll back SLS, they announced today that the October window is off. They're not going to be launching Artemis 1 in October. It'll be launch period 28, which opens on November 12th and closes on November 27th. So we are looking at a November launch window now for Artemis 1. Because of Ian.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense. You've just gone through a significant weather event. You want to go out and check the pad and make sure that any and all repairs that need to happen, especially because this is a new vehicle. So we were already having ground support equipment issues. And now we just got to make sure that Hurricane Ian did not exacerbate that. And I really, really hope that it didn't. And I also just want to say, if we have any viewers that are in Florida or in the current path of the Carolinas, we really hope that y'all are okay, and that you guys are doing good, and just hoping for nothing but the best with all of you there. So, yeah,
Can you hear the scramble of all the NASA employees canceling Thanksgiving plans and jockeying for who actually gets to take a Thanksgiving vacation?
Yeah, well, maybe if it launches at the beginning of the window, they can allow that to occur. Or no, because they're going to keep it in. They're going to keep Orion in space for a significant amount of time. If it launches, then it may not come back till 2023 technically. So we'll launch it and then we'll return it next year. And everyone will be like, wow, is this an X-37? And we'll be like, no, it actually comes back. I saw that map. I don't know where it is, and I don't know if it could be pulled up quick enough to show it, but of the path of Hurricane Ian through Kennedy Space Center, and it literally goes right through. It's not that one. I see the one that you're pulling up, our previous one. This one was like an actual overhead satellite image of the Kennedy Space Center, and it shows a line going through it, the exact path, and it's literally right through. So very good call on NASA's part in order for them to say roll it back, and we'll just make sure that we're not having any major problems. I think they said it was almost, what were the winds at? I know that they exceeded I know the winds that they detected exceeded the limits of what the space
I think
launch system
on
could have
one of the lightning towers, not lightning rod towers, they recorded 108 miles an hour. I think I am just pulling that out of my head.
No,
but I believe that's what I read.
I saw that today as well.
That's
Is this the one, Jared?
No, there was one that was even closer. I'll hunt for it if we can find it somewhere here. But I mean, it touched 39A. It was right there, which is just astounding. That kind of, I don't want to say precision because it is nature after all, but man, it was just good call. The correct call was made, even if it does mean that they have to wait an additional month or month and a half now for that. So if it's the difference between a launch vehicle tipping over and you actually being able to launch your vehicle, I would much rather take the launching your vehicle choice. So that's my choice. With that,
I also think it's quite slightly amusing that NASA waited so long for better forecasting, hoping that the Ian would move over to the west side of Florida and they wouldn't have to roll back SLS, so they could make the October, when was it, October 2nd launch window.
Yeah.
And then the eye of the hurricane just goes straight over LC-39.
I mean, yeah, they really did try to set everything up as best they could to make that happen. But yeah, it was good call. Again, I mean, not a fun call, but it's one of those calls that needs to be made. So.
It's what was necessary.
Yeah. I'm still hunting. I know I'm going to find it as soon as we move on to the next subject, which is how it always works on the show. There we go. Okay, if you want to pull up on my screen here. So this was the forecast, and it did follow the forecast there. So as you could see,
right between the goalposts on 39s.
Yeah. So just coming on through, didn't make the compass turn to land there. It's a 3-mile runway. You got a lot, to work with there. But no, it didn't. It split those. Wow, that's some precision, if you ask me. So, holy smokes. Wow. So, good call, NASA. Excellent job, weather forecasters as well with that. So it's always nice to see forecasts come true, and that helps people work with that. So, there's quite a few questions going on in our chat room, and I was just going to go ahead and grab some of these questions, which of course ground umbilical carrier plate is asking, at what point are waivers for the SRBs no longer an option and they need to be dismantled? I have a feeling, even though I don't like that feeling, that NASA's just going to keep writing waivers for themselves for the SRBs. So.
I think until the point where they start going a bit smelly, like milk, I think, and maybe I don't know, some of the solids propellant has gone a bit mushy and starts leaking out of the O-rings. I think maybe that's the point where NASA decides, maybe waivers aren't that good. Maybe we should. Well, we should put some new solids on it.
If anything, those solids would dry out and risk cracking. They wouldn't go mushy.
Yeah. And when they crack, they have extra surface area. And as we have learned several times throughout history, if you have extra surface area in a solid rocket motor, it tends to get very excited, and then just itself very, very well. I like
a sudden rise in surface area changes conflagration to explosion.
Yes, it gets excited, as we like to say. I really like Bennett Elder here answering ground umbilical carrier plates question as to when is the waiver going to be up. It's when it launches. With that there, also asking, is humidity factored in? I'd imagine they take in environmental factors and other things like that.
Everything.
I mean, you have to do that just with regular, I would imagine, like your launch pad, just everything to begin with at Kennedy and the Cape. So, and Aravale here saying in our chat room, from what I've heard, as long as they inspect the seals and everything looks fine, the SRBs aren't a major concern. All right, I guess.
Not sure how you inspect those seals without taking it apart, but okay.
Well, you just give it an old knock, and as long as it doesn't sound hollow, you're good, right?
So thump it like a melon.
Yeah, yeah. Could you imagine somebody going up and just hitting
tink tink tink? Oh, that part's bad.
Got to remove this segment. I don't know about you, but I am going to be probably breathing extremely heavy, and not in a good way, during that first 2.5 minutes of flight for Artemis 1. So,
are you gonna live stream your heart rate?
I don't know if I'll live stream my heart rate, but I'll definitely tell y'all what my heart rate is before or after, at least. With it, I think for Falcon Heavy it was like 140 or something.
Yeah,
so
same with the launch sequence in Apollo 11.
Oh yeah, we.
In IMAX.
So when the Apollo 11 documentary was out, Dada and I went to see it together in IMAX, and I might have gotten the launch of the Saturn V in that, and all the stuff in it. I might have had a moment.
You piddled
a little bit with that there, and I still do, even on a small TV. So I gotta say, so. It just, just thinking about it now, I've
distracted
Where
you.
am I?
Sorry.
What's going on? Are we live? I hope not. Anyways, I'm invested in these things. They're like big, they're important, and I can't describe it. How
it's called passion.
Yeah, I have a lot of passion for this kind of stuff. So there you go. So yeah, that's that. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for Ian.
Oh, Scott does say just duct tape the solids. They're fine.
Oh yeah,
That's a solid option. And Robert also says, which is something I did on Flight Simulator, flew into the shuttle landing facility on Flight Sim during the hurricane, and I was screaming most of the time. I buzzed around Tampa a little bit on Flight Simulator, and yeah, let's just say I ended in the sea several times.
Did you see the video from the NOAA hurricane hunters?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was wild. Oh, yeah, if you guys can go,
literally getting thrown around the cabin.
Like I've been on a couple turbulent flights where it's very much like looking at the person next to me in the seat and being like, "Oh, don't worry, this won't break the plane." Right?
Pulling up videos of testing to destruction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, the wings, they're like that. So it's fine. It's fine. That wing could at least flex another 30 to 40 feet. It's fine. Yeah, that was wild. So those people, oh my gosh, putting their lives on the line for science. So thank you them, because that's where we get a lot of that data, that meteorological data that helps with predictions and things. Satellites help out a lot, but also those aircraft flying into the hurricanes, the NOAA's hurricane hunters, they also do a very big, important part of that. So props to them. And oh my gosh, that was I don't know if I could get on a plane again after that. That might be a little difficult. So.
Every flight after that is going to be smooth sailing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it then. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Nothing will be as bad as that.
It already feels like the worst one I've ever been on. Nothing could be as bad as
Sitting
that,
next to your neighbor with her claws in your thigh. This wasn't as bad as in 2022.
All right. That's enough of that. Let's move on to something else. What else we got coming up?
Do you want to move to Dart?
Yeah, we could definitely move to Dart.
Because that happened, it feels like it happened ages ago now. It happened on Monday.
Yes.
Well, Monday night.
And I don't know about you, but I was watching it live as it was happening.
I was watching it live too.
And
I hope a lot of other people were watching it live.
It was absolutely amazing, wasn't it?
Boop. Yeah, because you see the little dot, and then it gets bigger, and then there's a mini little dot. And then the little dot gets bigger and brighter and brighter and brighter, and then Dart successfully decided it wanted to go for the little dot, not the big dot, which was very exciting. And then we just kept getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and finally Dart smacked into Didymos. Didymoon.
Dimorphos.
See, this is the thing. Right? Why can't they just pick on one name which we all agree on, which is Didymoon?
Yes. And
then we'll all be happy. So why do we have to call it Dimorphos? I don't understand. But anyway.
I don't get it. But yeah, I was just showing on screen here, Dutta, if you want to pull it up. This is actually the radar image from Arecibo when it was still operating during a time that Didymos and Dimorphos went past. So this is like what we had as our best guess or our best images, if you will. And this is radar making these images, and we could see that it had a moon going around it. So we thought, what a great target in order to go smack it. Yeah, we smacked it with a spaceship, and that's spacecraft. Oh boy, thank you for that one, Dutta. Appreciate that in the chat. Good stuff. So here's Dart. In case you didn't know how big it is, it's a good sized vehicle, about half a ton, roughly. So it's no pushover in terms.
That's a big satellite for it only being 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, well, it's a little north of 1,000 pounds. So half a ton approximately. But it's still that is very big for it. But also wasn't really carrying much. It was just essentially Draco, the imager, that was on board, and then an ion engine as well, the next generation ion engine that we're going to be using soon, which they actually revealed in the press conference that they had issues with the engines. They actually didn't use it as much as they were expecting, but they had enough propellant like hydrazine on board that they were able to just continue with the mission anyhow. They could have, even if they had lost the ion engine entirely. And they also said that they were willing to take the risk that if DART had missed Dimorphos, they would have fired up the ion engine and done it again. So yeah, that would have been something. Coming close, there's your warning shot across the bow. And then like 18 months later, here it comes again. Hope it hits it this time, but we didn't have to worry about that, right? Because it hit it.
It's like the fly buzzing your head.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And then this is Lycia Cube, which is what took those really amazing images, which I do have a few of them a little bit later in the images that I want to show off to you. But as you can see, it's not very big, which is great. And here they are installing it on there. As you can see, the resolution of this was actually this image is just about the same amount that is the resolution from Lycia Cube as well. So same with this one. Just a bunch of these folks hanging out in front of it here. Also, I really like this one showing DART in the
scale, the absolute scale of that thing inside of a payload fairing is so funny.
It seems like they could have gotten a little more performance out of it had they had a payload fairing that was like a third of the size.
Yeah, imagine that. So, yeah, this was pretty funny. I actually did go to this launch. I did see it. This is one I think Jamie and I had done a dollar bet on this one, for being foggy or not, and it was inconclusive because because it was foggy at Ocean Avenue, but it wasn't foggy further away from where I watched it at. So, yeah. So, but yeah, this was an interplanetary flight, so that's why you didn't. I saw someone in the chat asking Starlink rideshare, and then interplanetary. Yes, this was interplanetary out there, and then the imagery that was coming back was really great as we were on approach. So, thanks, Mom. So I knew you always wanted to be on air, and now you are on air. So thanks.
So professional.
Yeah, in case anybody couldn't tell, I got a little bit back this year. Woohoo! Anyways, where do you go from there? Hi, Mom. Thanks. We always said she was a star. And now she's right here with our two asteroids. So we've got no, I'm not sharing the refund check. Oh my gosh, stop it. Guys, you guys are great. Leave a comment below if you think I should share it with everybody here. Because everyone here will get 50 cents. So there you go. Okay, so here's back to reality with DART on approach to Didymos and Dimorphos. I'm so confused now on this.
You got so sidetracked.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to come back from that, but I'm trying.
Next image, reset.
Okay, yeah. So that was Didymos, the bigger one, and then Dimorphos further in the back right there. This is pretty much the best image that we got of Didymos, which is the larger of the two bodies here. They're a binary asteroid. Dimorphos goes around Didymos. And we got that really great imagery of Dimorphos as it was coming in. And that's amazing. If you're wondering how big Dimorphos is here, we figured it's about 200 meters across roughly. This is a
what is that in our units?
Like,
you don't deserve to know because it's a stupid format.
Said without an ounce of bitterness from
okay,
Ryan.
650 feet ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
656.168 feet.
All right, that makes sense now.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say about 2 football fields, roughly. so, in case you wanted to know. So, or does that clear it up,
Yes.
or is that not
yeah.
help? Because I know
those are units my puny little American brain.
Yeah, but
can
how many
comprehend.
bananas is that?
I have no idea. So it's quite a few bananas. That's for sure. Loopy is now asking, I'm just going to go ahead and push this one, which is how many washing machines? I have no clue with it is. Also, Bennett is saying that would be 110 freedom yards. Which that's good. We've unleashed the chat room now because Haley is asking imperial standard bananas or metric bananas.
Well, according to bananaforscale.info, it is 1,123.596 bananas.
There you go. All right. You guys thought you were being funny, but we brought the math. Tickle Stuff is saying that it's large enough that stormtroopers have a 1 in 10 chance of hitting it.
Awesome.
It's good. I like that one. But I really like this because this is the composite image. So they took all of the images that Dart took on the way into Dimorphos and stitched them all together. So fantastic views.
I'm just saying that's some incredible resolution for accelerating towards something at 14,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, or I think some folks in the chat room were asking how fast it was going. 14,000 miles an hour, or for those of you who are metrically inclined, it was at about 6.6 kilometers per second, roughly. So, did a little bit of math, and it was 1/40th of a second was your margin of error from either hitting Dimorphos or not, or missing it. So 1/40th of a second. Small. And then I want to point out, they hit it only 17 meters off center from where it was at. So
that's pretty good.
That's pretty good over an orbit around the sun. You know, I'd say that's pretty good. Not bad. But I think I've got the closer ones here. So this was the final image, final full image
that's
that we got from Dart. And this is absolutely stunning to be able to look at something like this and see the detail on the surface there. And this is kind of telling us that it's what we call a rubble pile, which is that it might be made primarily out of just a whole bunch of stuff that is just barely gravitationally bound together, and that can lead to different results when you hit it. So I'm actually super interested to see what the full results are going to be, which is going to take quite a while to get those for this mission, simply because this is very important planetary defense, and Robert Allen is saying, if I stand on it, can I throw a baseball into orbit? And actually, you should be able to. I would imagine that if you could jump hard enough, you would very much be able to hit escape velocity from Dimorphos. Are you actually looking for that, Ryan? Somebody's hunting for it.
I pulled up Google, and if you enter Dart mission, it does something cool.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to show it on air? Is that what we're doing? Oh, hey, it knocked it over a little bit. Doggone it. Not again. So, anyways, I wanted to show this really great image processing by our good friend Jason Major, who took this and really enhanced the imagery and made it much. The amount of data he crunched a ton of data to make it look this good, and then also you could see down at the bottom here we do have a scale bar, so we're looking at something here that's about, I would argue, about 50 by 50 meters in the final image that was transmitted back by Dart. And remember, this image was taken from about 12 to 14 kilometers away from Dimorphos, because it was about 2 seconds before impact. So that's how far away it was when it took this image. So, which is like amazing that it's got this kind of resolution. on it there. And then just kind of going in even closer on the rocks that you see, the big boulders in the middle. This is where DART hit. So I'm not saying that it hit between the two boulders, but that looks like a pretty good area. If I had to bet $1 as to where it hit, I would lay $1 down on between those two boulders. So yeah, that's amazing with that there. I'm just blown away by this, blown away by the precision, and then also blown away by the data that we're going to get from this, which is hugely important in terms of planetary defense. So for those of you who didn't know, Mac doesn't like to play GIFs or GIFs, however you pronounce it. So I'm just going to play this here because there were a multitude of telescopes on Earth that were aimed at Dimorphos, and this is what they saw. So we got the impact, right? So let's look at it here. So this is Didymos, actually. Most of the light we're seeing here is coming from Didymos because it's far larger than Dimorphos. So it's gonna be the primary source of the light that we get from that there. But then all of a sudden DART hits, and we can see that the material starts coming off of Dimorphos and just going out into space. So yeah, we're gonna have to see what that looks like. I really want to see what that looks like with the mission that I'll talk about in just a little bit with that there. Hubble and JW did get a shot of it, and I'll show you that in just a second here, because I did want to talk about Lysia Cube, which was deployed before DART hit Dimorphos, and in its deployment it had enough time that it was a distance enough away that it was going through the system, the Didymos system, but did not interact with an impact at all. So this is just shortly after impact with that there, and I'm going to go ahead and that was as I try my best. It's a lot harder than it looks. Let me tell you, it's almost as difficult as trying to talk to your mom live on air. So we've got this really great image of just post impact with that there. So I love it. And then this next one, which is just absolutely astounding, and I'm beyond interested to know why the apparent distribution of that plume there does not appear to be even, and that's probably because it's a rubble pile, and as I said, a rubble pile, big collection of material together that's just barely gravitationally bound together. So if you hit it hard enough, you may blow it into pieces. We're going to be, as Gerard does note on here. That's right. I'm on my other computer. We're going to be getting high-res video of the impact from this CubeSat pretty soon. And yeah, that's going to be really, really exciting. Gosh, that's so cool. I can't wait. And yeah, somebody's saying that this is an amazing image. It really is. I've been kind of half joking about this, but it is Earth striking back for the extinction of the dinosaurs. With that there, we are very clearly avenging them by doing this. With that, so here's Hubble looking at this here, and I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit on that there, so because it's only a handful of frames here. So this was Hubble. So here we are, pre-impact, then impact, and then post-impact, looking at that there. So we've got to parse through the data to see what it actually ends up looking like. But we're gonna go through that as best we can. And then here is JDub's data. As you can see, JDub was a little off center from it there, but that's okay, JDub. We still love you. And it got some good. It actually, as you can see in that, there has a little bit of detail from the plume coming off of it. So, which is astounding to me. That's just amazing. So a lot of data to work through to try to figure things out with that there. But just want to let everybody know that the European Space Agency does have a mission on the books called Hera, which is going to be going to the Didymos system and going to be taking a look at what DART managed to do to Dimorphos. And it'll have 2 CubeSats, which will be able to do some really close operations with that there. And again, I'm just super excited to see how it went. And a lot of people were asking essentially, like, when are we going to get the results on this? A lot of the results are going to come in from that first set of images that Hera will take of Dimorphos, and then in addition to that, they're going to try to image the light curves of Didymos and see if we can detect a difference in the light curves, which would tell us that Dimorphos was deflected a certain amount. So with a half-ton spacecraft moving at 6.6 kilometers per second, they were expecting up to about 1 millimeter per second of movement to go into Dimorphos. So that would speed up. So they're actually increasing its orbital period by 10 minutes around Didymos there. So we'll have to see, and really hope that we get some good data coming back from that. But again, we're not going to know immediately. And then also the imagery, the really good imagery from Let's Cube, we're still going to have to wait a little bit for that. But I mean, that's the way it goes. Spaceflight is just a bunch of waiting at times. So that was super exciting. I really enjoyed watching that live. I was having lunch and watching it live, and I've never seen anything live streamed from the inner solar system before until this happened. So yeah, that was great. And I loved watching all the details start to pop up on everything. That was amazing. That was
very cool to see. As Dart got closer, you could see more and more and more, and then Didymos moved off on the left-hand side, and then got closer and closer and closer, and then that final image, which could barely get sent back, just a little streak, but so much detail in that live, all of them rocks. And whilst you were going through all of that, we had a load of questions which I picked up from the chat room.
Okay.
So we have this one from Bennett Elder. Interesting when you think the fuel for Dart's booster was maybe dinosaurs. I mean, more likely plants, but maybe dinosaurs. We also have another one here. JPL does it again. Well, I don't know why this doesn't work. Something's broken. Colton, what? Explain afterwards. But this wasn't JPL. This was APL. This is a different people entirely. This was not the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
There were some folks at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory who were helping on the mission.
But this wasn't a JPL mission.
This was mostly the Applied Physics Laboratory at Johns Hopkins University. So just a heads up, that's East Coast. That's not us here on the West Coast. So, but great on them. So, I mean, they're also a fantastic place. Also another group that I would say never bet against APL as well.
And then Jason said, I believe it was mentioned on the NASA spaceflight stream, which is what I was watching, that the escape velocity was 0.5 meter per second, which means that if you just walk, you can escape Dimorphos, which is...
I'm going to walk right off of Dimorphos here. So you've just upset me so much, I'm walking away. And you could literally walk away.
And then Jason moved into some other names for Dart. First up, the Dinosaur Advanced Revenge something. And then that advanced into the Dinosaur Advanced Revenge Test. I think that's the best one. I think this is what Dart should have actually been called.
Yeah.
And then Arabelle said, your move, solar system.
Oh no, can we please not?
Let's not tempt fate there.
Yeah, let's not do that with that. So yeah, that would be let's let's not. Yeah, so I'm really hoping that we prove that that this is a good method for planetary defense. And honestly, if it turns out that Dimorphos was a rubble pile, that is sort of considered a worst case scenario of an object.
Yeah.
So that would be great if we determined that it was a rubble pile, because now we get to see what the effects are for the worst possible object to try to have to deflect.
How long before we get data back on how that impact changed its orbit? With telescopes based here on Earth, and I haven't heard of anyone getting time on Hubble or Webb to try to look at the light curves yet, but I would imagine, I will venture to guess it will be about a year to 2 years before we get the official work with that. I would imagine someone will get excited and we'll get a set of data before that. But once the official papers come out with things like that, I'd say about a year to 2 years is a timeline that we'll be looking at with that. So, yeah, would be very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and fittingly, this comment from Apollo: speaking of Hubble, have you talked about the recent developments over there? Which we haven't.
No, we have not.
And should we?
Yeah.
Dive into Hubble?
Yeah, I think we should dive into Hubble.
Yeah. So very excitingly, if you didn't know, if you've been living under a rock, a Dimorphos-sized rock,
or a rubble pile,
a rubble
pile of rubble. If you've been stuck under a Dimorphos-shaped sized pile of rubble, SpaceX is going to be conducting a study to see if it is possible to service Hubble with Crew Dragon, which is very exciting because Hubble hasn't been serviced since the last shuttle servicing mission over 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. STS-125 in 2009.
Yep. Yeah, so over 12 years ago. And yeah, this is very exciting news, because if the study goes in favor of a Hubble servicing mission, Hubble might just get a new lease on life and be able to serve the astronomical community for many, many years to come.
Yeah, and we just saw the advantages of Hubble working with JW to have co-observations happening at the same time, which, I mean, that's fantastic, having the ability to do that. There's tons of things that you don't there's tons of things that you get in visible light that you can't get in infrared, and there's tons of things in infrared that you can't get in visible light. So having them both work together is incredibly important, and this is very exciting to hear. Hubble was expected to last until the end of this decade. They say it's healthy enough, and they're working with the systems as gently as they can in order to make sure that it makes it through the end of this decade. And there's some really, the big issue is the fact that its orbit decays. So even though you're in space, there's still a little bit of stuff up at those high altitudes, things like molecular oxygen and other stuff. Because of that, it does generate a small amount of drag, and that's enough drag that over very long periods of time, usually tens of years at the altitude that Hubble is at, you can come down and eventually burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. And indeed, they think that if Hubble were completely left alone as it is right now, it would be about the late 2030s is when Hubble would eventually decay and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. But it sounds like that is a possibility that may not occur, which is great. And that's what we really want to see. Servicing a spacecraft is extremely difficult. First of all, you have to design your spacecraft to be serviced. Shade up. Then
I'm sorry, are you throwing shade at yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Yep. Don't worry. When I throw shade at myself, it's usually usually due to a single point of failure of my own character. So having something serviceable increases the costs and other things like that. It does increase the rewards, obviously, because every service mission for Hubble that flew, they would pull a lot of old stuff out and put a lot of the new stuff in, and you could upgrade it, and that was great. You could replace parts.
We can rebuild it. We have the technology.
Absolutely. And a really interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people understand from the Hubble servicing missions is that some of these instruments spent the better part of 2 decades in space, and we were able to bring them back to the Earth on the shuttle and study what space had done to them over that time period. And you learn a lot when you can study something that's been sitting in space for over 20 years. Yeah, that's something that is something that is entirely overlooked, that Hubble has contributed to. It's not just astronomy; it's also the design of spacecraft for long-term use and other things.
Turns out all they needed to do to get Hubble to surpass James Webb is to put a 4K sensor in it.
Yeah, maybe that would be fantastic if we could do something like that. Or we could, Hubble was capable of a little bit of infrared. Well, it's still near infrared. It could still do a very smidge of infrared, so maybe we don't need to worry about that with it then. But yeah, you do have to have the vehicle capable of servicing. I think with something like Hubble, it's not going to be robotic because Hubble just requires a lot of finesse to work inside of it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm very excited about it. I'm also very interested in Jared Isaacman being a part of this. He was sort of hinting at an interest in being a part of it.
Yes. He was in the teleconference call. He was tweeting stuff on Twitter beforehand. And yeah, he seems to be taking a strong interest in this. Although the terminology that he used in the teleconference was that Polaris would be like assisting with this. Polaris wouldn't be doing this. So once the feasibility study has been completed, we'll have to see just what kind of size, what kind of impact the Polaris program would have on a servicing mission to Hubble. But considering that Polaris Dawn is meant to be the first EVA out of a Dragon, I think if we're going to be sending humans up to Hubble, the Polaris program demonstrating that capability would be pretty integral to a servicing mission.
Yeah. And I gotta say, when Hubble first got up there with its flawed mirror coming back from in 1991, 1992, and 1993, there were several shuttle missions that flew where they had secondary objectives on their spacewalks in order to actually test out equipment that would be used on Hubble. So the idea of going up on a mission, with a set of objectives dedicated to testing equipment is not completely out of the question, because NASA did it for Hubble before they sent up STS-61, which was the mission in December of 1993 that did the first set, basically repaired Hubble and brought it back to life, and also installed some new instruments as well during that. So yeah, as I was just wanting to point out here, on the bottom of Hubble, there is a soft capture device there. So if you have the right kind of docking adapter, you absolutely can attach to the bottom of Hubble.
Yep.
So, yeah. And
yeah. As old gamer noob was saying, since Hubble was in the shuttle, doesn't it have an adapter ring for the Dragon trunk to mount onto, right? Well, technically, Dragon could dock to Hubble nose first. The only thing I'd be worried about is Dragon has the aero cover, which folds out and folds over the docking adapter on the ISS. Hubble doesn't have the spacing between the chassis of the telescope and the docking port itself. So I don't know how the aero cover could fit if Dragon was to dock. It just doesn't look like there's the space for it.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that there are thrusters on the front of Dragon, and the exhaust from those will hit Hubble as it's coming in, which is not good. With Hubble, the optics are not exposed. You can actually close the top on Hubble, have it come down, and when shuttle missions were going up and servicing it, they would close that at the top to make sure that none of the reaction control system exhaust from shuttle would end up getting into the optics. Again, that's a really big problem. It's with Webb, with JW, that is the biggest issue, which is that no matter how you approach it, because the optics are open, the temperature, the sheer coldness of the optics side will cause the gas to depose on there. It will become solid and stick to it, which is bad. So this would definitely be I don't want to say like a one-off Dragon if they were having to do it, but this is something that I'm actually really glad that they're taking a look at in possibly trying to do. So yeah, I think we got some questions from the chat room here too.
Yeah, Apollo says they can jettison the nose cone, can't they? And I think that's only intended for emergencies. SpaceX wants to have that nose cone on there for re-entry with humans on board, probably, if they have to. And also, Robert does make a very good point. To boost or do EVA, they can't attach Dragon to the front docking port because that's how the crew get out.
Yes.
So that's another thing to consider. Dragon would just have to hover around Hubble whilst crew EVA go into the trunk. I would say walk over, but somehow get themselves to Hubble, do the servicing, and then get themselves back to Dragon. All the time while these two vehicles are not physically connected. They're just kind of there next to each other, and I think that's going to be one of the most important parts of this study to figure out. If we can do this, how are we going to make sure that these two vehicles don't suddenly stray apart and we leave two crew members hanging off the side of Hubble waiting to be saved?
Yeah, that is the hardest part, is the human factor in this. Those extravehicular activities that were done as a part of the missions where shuttle would service Hubble are essentially the most complicated spacewalks anyone has ever done, simply because in some cases there were times where the astronauts had to actually physically get inside of Hubble without bumping a single thing, like you cannot bump these gyros or these star trackers, because if you even smudge them, that's it. They will not be accurate enough to point the telescope anymore, and that's it. Hubble's dead. And like the amount of training that goes into that. And I also recall that there was one instrument that they had to remove that had like 130 screws that they had to unscrew individually. It was like a mind-numbing amount. And man, it is so much more complicated than it sounds. It sounds like you should just walk up there, open the doors at the bottom of Hubble, and just rummage around like you do maybe with your car. But no, it's a lot more complicated than that. So there are so many things that can go wrong. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's wild. So, but I really am excited to see the results of this study, because I do want to see if we might actually see this, but with a Crew Dragon at some point, or a Crew Dragon in another vehicle, or some sort of pressurized module or something that they have, like like a SpaceX and another company working together to make it happen. It would just be. I think it is one of those endeavors that would be worthy of having, more than just SpaceX involved in on it. And it
should be a big collaboration between many different companies, I think, because the more expertise you have in trying to service such a big, complicated piece of engineering, then I think that the better it will go.
Yeah.
They need a miniature Canada arm.
Yeah, you do need a robotic arm as the astronaut who's on the end of this. This is from STS 125 because that's when they removed CoStar, which that instrument right there, CoStar, is what was used basically as Hubble's glasses to fix the light when it came in before it hit the instruments. So yeah, you would. There's a lot that would have to be developed for this mission, and it would. I really am seriously excited to do that. So yeah.
And Hoan has a good point as well. It's a fraction of what is needed it's a fraction of the price to repair Hubble than is what is needed to build the next mega telescope after James Webb, which is a very good point. Servicing Hubble is a lot cheaper than developing a brand new space telescope. So if the study comes out in favor of this, then that's a lot of money saved than losing Hubble and having to replace it with a new telescope.
And then the schedule might also be assuredly shorter.
And the but the astronomer side of me says that there's nothing quite like a bigger telescope. I mean, just straight up, bigger mirror, more light.
Yeah,
you see more, you see further. So I would actually like a mega telescope. I would like to have all of them running at the same time. So, and it's not an easy thing to do, though. The reason, so this is something that comes up a lot in the debate about Starlink, and I pretty much I'm not going to go into my personal opinion about Starlink, but we're at the point where the debate is over. SpaceX is not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to go and get them.
Yes. SpaceX isn't going to be doing anything to slow down its pace. SpaceX, to their credit, is working with astronomers across the world to try to minimize the impacts. Other companies are, which is great. Definitely appreciate that. But it is one of those facts of life now that I have accepted as a half astronomer, that Starlink is here to stay, and we're just going to have to develop things that allow us to mitigate it ruining I don't want to say every image, but quite a lot of the images that professional observatories are taking these days. So we could debate that till the cows come home, and we're not. Mostly because if Loopy's watching, we already have one cow here and it's home. Space telescopes in the Starlink debate, it's always said we'll just make space telescopes cheaper, and I throw my head back and laugh a little bit at that idea, because every space telescope has a very specific thing that it's supposed to do, which means that it's bespoke.
It's not like you can just walk into the shop and pick up one of them little optical telescopes in a box and then put it on your little tripod and point it at the moon, and you can take some pretty photos through your point and shoot camera.
Yeah.
Hubble isn't that simple. It's not store bought. This thing is an incredible piece of engineering. Same for James Webb and all of the other space telescopes which have been launched into space. It's like that you can't just make a space telescope.
No, it's not one of those things where one size fits all. And I'm not just necessarily saying like the actual physical size. I'm talking about things like instruments and the way it operates and other things like that. It's radical. Every telescope is Krager cow. Nice. Every telescope is its own thing. It is its own bespoke thing. You can walk into a Ferrari dealership and option a whole bunch of stuff and make your Ferrari yours. But when you are making a space telescope, you are going into Pininfarina, a coach builder, and you are having them make a one-off car for you. And that's the only metaphor I could think of with it. It's like a Formula One car. Each car has an aerodynamics package for a specific track. Every
space telescope is a bespoke collection of the least terrible of decisions to route around requirements that are uber restrictive.
Yes. Or what we could do...
And that's the simplest way of putting it.
Actually, I like Bennett's idea here, which is we'll just call up the National Reconnaissance Office and ask them to retire some things. So, that is still one of my favorite
rumor has it it's a Hubble. It's a similar thing to Hubble, which they just launched on the latest Falcon 9 out of Falcon 9. What am I on about? Delta 4 Heavy out of Vandenberg. Look at me. It's late, okay? Look.
It's fair.
It's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning.
I know. Don't worry. You get a pass.
I've still got Dart in my head. Falcon from Vandenberg. Delta 4 Heavy from Vandenberg. The last one. It's rumoured that they launched a Hubble similar thing just to look at Earth instead. So, you know, if you could hand that over to the science, thank you.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, they
ask nicely. They send them a nice letter.
Well, they did in 2012. That's where we got the Nancy Grace Roman telescope from. So that one's a 2.4 meter.
That's a pre-launch thing, though.
Yeah, but like at the same time. Oh, you mean like take a keyhole that's already in orbit and then use it for astronomy? Yeah, it's just not going to work because you're looking the wrong way. So those look down, not up.
Focal distance is also off.
Yeah, just a bit. Just a bit. So I love that.
You need a farsighted set of glasses for it.
My favorite bit about the NRO telescope donation thing is that when NASA got them and they were like, wow, these are like really advanced, and the NRO was like, gosh, these things were obsolete in the 80s. So that kind of makes me wonder what they got, what launched last week, kind of thing with that there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's some pretty funny stuff. So yeah, all right. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm super excited. Actually, I'll say one more thing because I kind of talked about this before the beginning of the show, which is that a lot of criticism is leveled at commercial space flight. Some of it definitely rightfully so. There are people at the forefront who are not very great people in a multitude of ways. Nobody's perfect, but some people anyways. So there's been a lot of criticism leveled at that, and that commercial spaceflight is self-serving, and that it's shutting out everything with that. But I feel like this is a really good example. This is finally getting to the examples of what I've always wanted commercial spaceflight to do, which is to enable things like this. And doing that with Hubble, I think, makes it really, really public in the eye of everybody, because almost everybody knows about the Hubble Space Telescope. So I'm very excited about this, and I really do hope that we hear more about this study, because yesterday it wasn't just the astronomical community or us spaceflight nerds who were excited about it. There were regular people who were getting excited about it, and that's great. That's exactly what we all want to see here tomorrow, is everybody getting excited about the universe. So keep it up. That's some good stuff. So that's all I have to say about it. So
the last thing I have to mention tonight is Firefly. They went for a launch attempt, technically this morning, last night PST. Wherever you are, it was at some time a few hours ago. They went for a launch attempt, aborted early, and then they went for another one, ignited the engines, and the rocket cut off, aborted at the final moment. And they have another launch attempt confirmed by Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, tonight / tomorrow morning. Same thing, same time period. It is 0701 UTC to 0900 UTC, which is 1 past midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning Pacific local time. So yeah, if you're either up late enough or up early enough to watch that, which I won't be, spoiler alert, then yeah, hopefully Firefly will be heading to orbit for this first time very, very soon. And also interestingly, something I noticed whilst I was looking on here, the maiden flight of ABL Space Systems RS-1 rocket has now been pushed to Monday, October 10th. So the Firefly and ABL have a little bit of a secret battle going on here. First people to get to orbit. Firefly have launched once, but big rocket blew up. So yeah, if Firefly can get off the ground today / tomorrow, wherever you're watching, probably yesterday in Australia, then yeah, they'll be able to take that I wouldn't say victory, but take that victory over ABL. I'll say it. Okay, I said it.
The battle between the two, as Rocket Lab just stands on the sidelines with Electron, watching them at that point. While the great Conestoga looks down from rocket heaven, or whatever you want to call it, wherever rockets go when they never fly ever again. Or maybe looking up from the bottom of the ocean. I don't know. So, for all I know. So if you don't know what Conestoga is, look it up. So there's a little thing called history. I was just gonna throw one more in if that's
Go
it.
for it. Throw it in.
I just figured.
Chuck it.
Yeah, let's end on some.
Like you're throwing it off Dimorphos. Send it to Escape Velocity.
Send it. # send it. Take a look at this. So I just wanted to show this off real quick because we're always talking about J-Dub and other things like that, and we took
what has J-Dub done for me recently?
It's done this, which
I messed.
People,
what has J-Dub done for me lately?
This. Do you know what it is? You guys know what it is?
I like it.
You want to take a guess?
Did they put a ring on it?
Yeah. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Neptune.
Sweet.
So, 8th planet from the sun. Kind of depend. Well, yeah. Of the 9 planets, it's
sometimes
our second furthest out. So, and yeah, this is an amazing image from J-Dub with it. First of all, I just want to say, in this actual, the wide field, look at all those galaxies that are there. Like,
but we don't care about the galaxies. We care about Neptune.
Fair enough. So
look at Neptune. Go back to there. We go.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely gorgeous there. We could see different temperatures in the atmosphere, which blows my mind. With that there, like, look at that. We can actually see areas that are warmer or cooler, relatively speaking. And we actually can, so we can see the rings of Neptune. Neptune does have rings. All 4 of the outer planets, 4 of the 5 outer planets have rings. So Saturn has very prominent rings because they're made out of water ice mostly. So, and if you think about it, water ice, snow is very reflective of light. So that's why you can see the rings very, very well at Saturn. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune do have rings, as you can see here with Neptune. It's just that they are made of dust. Dust, not very reflective of light, but it's very good at absorbing infrared light, and that's why we're able to see it so dang well here. And this is one of the very promising things that we had with J-Dub, which is that we were going to be able to start to study all 5 of the outer planets in greater detail than we ever have before, so super excited about that. Also, just want to point it out that we are looking at not only just some rings around Neptune there, but we can also see some of its moons. Triton, one of my favorite moons, it's absolutely massive. It orbits around Neptune in a direction that is opposite of everything else in the solar system, so it was probably a captured body, so you can imagine something huge like Pluto getting caught in the gravity of Neptune and then settling in. And it has geysers on its surface, which having some sort of active geology like that way out there, that's absolutely amazing, and I can't wait for us to go visit it whenever we do. But yeah, that was great, and I just, oh man, look at it. Like, you can actually get detail in the atmosphere out of that. Holy smokes, I love it. So yeah, more of that, please. With that there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that great? So wasn't that worth what? Isn't this all worth the 15-year delay and the $8 billion budget overrun? Come on.
No.
Come on. What's a decade and a half and $8 billion amongst friends?
No.
So decade and a half and $8 billion, that's like 5 or 6 F-35s. Anyways, I want to thank some folks right now before we move on with that there. Of course, we want to thank everybody who helps contribute to the show. That's right, our TMRO members. If you would like to...
I forgot some names.
Yeah, I think
no.
you did.
No. Sorry, everyone. So, what we were discovering in pre-show was that when I open up the CSV file that the names are in Excel, it converts all the Unicode to ASCII. So, sorry, if your name is spelt with some very weird characters, I do apologise. This will hopefully be rectified in the next set of slates.
You owe each and every one of them an individual apology.
Yes, start now.
I'm very sorry.
Start now. You are going to write an apology to every
I'll
single
send you
person.
a physical letter.
Yeah, please
Snail mail.
Send us your addresses so that we can have Ryan write apology notes to everybody with that. And of course, we can't do this without you, members. This is absolutely amazing that y'all support us. And if you would like to support us, you can head on over to youtube.com/TMRO/ is it members?
Join.
Sorry.
Join.
I am going to write an apology note of my own on behalf of
to each of these members.
Yes. And thank you, NeuroStream, for being the most amazing, the best, the top. That's right, the TMRO Model 33 Plaid Pro Plus, which is something that we came up with during the time that we are on for members only, which is actually what we're about to transition into in just about 60 seconds. So once again, thank you all so much for watching tomorrow. If you would like to become a member and help us out here and be allowed to stick around and see us in our members only streams that we usually do before.
If you think this is crazy, you haven't seen anything.
Yeah, let me tell you. We do them before and then after the show, usually about a half hour before the show starts, and then we go for as long as we want after the show with it. So youtube.com/TMRO/join. That's where you're going to want to go to become a member. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, whatever you need to do to engage with us. Feel free to do it. We're always happy to hear from you all. So on behalf of everybody from tomorrow, I'm Jared. That is Ryan. And there's a Dutta sitting over there. And everyone have a very good week. We'll see you next. Are we going to see you next week? I think we are going to see you next week. So who's going to be here next week? Are you here next week? You're not here next week. What about you, Ryan? Are you here next week?
I'm always here.
Okay, and I will be here too next week. It's gonna be my birthday next week, so awesome. With that, so
show.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it'll be great. So thank you all for watching. I don't end the show like Jamie does, and we'll eventually just go into members only. Thanks, Mom, and we'll see you later.